Hey, 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 and welcome back to another installment of the Self Care for Women Culinary Entrepreneurs series, aka my Chef Care series. And for those of you that are new, because I do feel like we've got a couple of new people over to the channel, welcome. I'm Chef Evelyn. I'm a culinary brand strategist, and I help women live, cook, and work on their own terms by teaching them how to build high-end culinary brands from scratch so they can transition from chef for hire to a culinary CEO. And I am really enjoying this series. I hope that you are enjoying it as well. Like I said, the idea came to me over the weekend, and I was just like, let's just do it. Like, no fancy editing, no fancy whatever. We were just going to jump right into it. So if you are watching live, let me know in the comments where you are viewing from. So I kind of want to know where you guys are, if you're in the United States or not. I know based on my channel demographics, we've got a little bit of a worldwide audience, so that's exciting. I am in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas. No, you cannot move here because we have way too many people moving here. But I'm really excited to talk about how to fully commit to a self-care lifestyle today. Like this one, like I'm super fired up about it, and I can't wait to dialogue with you about it, converse with you about it, get your feedback on it. And if this is your first time watching this series, I decided to do this Chef Care series because I felt like this was a conversation, a dialogue that was missing from the women chefpreneur community online. I just saw hustle and grind, and here's how to get the next client, and here's how to do this, and I will even say that I contributed to that in some degree. Maybe not the hustle and grind part, but definitely just the nuts and bolts of business. Here's how you charge premium prices. Here's how you get high-end clients. Here's how you do this, and all of that is super important, right? We need those things in place to have a successful business. But what I have noticed with myself, with my clients in general, is that if your reason for being in business is not rooted in something significant, every time there's a bump or a bruise or something like that along the way, we kind of give up, right? And if it's not, or if we are anchored in, but we are exhausted and we are tired, whether that's we're exhausted because we're booking so many clients, right? Because maybe our prices aren't at a good place, right? Then we're tired. Or maybe it's because we're putting forth so much work and we're not seeing the return on the investment of getting enough clients, right? Wherever, or somewhere in between, right? So wherever you fall in the spectrum, this series is for you. So today, I really want to talk about how to fully commit to self-care as a lifestyle. And the reason why I wanted to choose this to talk about today is because a lot of times online when I hear discussions or read discussions about self-care, it's almost like self-care is an event. Self-care Saturday, self-care Sunday, I'm going to have a self-care moment. And the way I view self-care, the way I teach self-care to my clients is that self-care is an approach to life. It's a way of living, not something that you do when you get a chance, if your schedule permits, if you have enough time. Okay? So I view self-care as a lifestyle. So that's probably the first like major difference on how to commit to self-care as a lifestyle is that it is in fact a lifestyle and not an event. Okay. So that is the first thing, and listen, if you are someone who's been team like self-care Saturday, self-care Sunday, like this is not a dig at you at all, but it's really, to offer you a different perspective and ask yourself, have those moments, those dates on the calendars, have they been effective for you, right? So if you are somebody who's like, okay, this is my self-care afternoon, has that been effective for you for the things that are really, really important to you? Yes, we all need a break. We need some me time. I talked yesterday about needing maintenance time, and all of that is important. But self-care, it comes in your decision making. Self-care comes in where you spend your time, where you spend your resources, where you spend your energy, where you spend your money, right? Like that self-care comes into that, right? And I think there was a quote, I can't remember, I think it was a financial person one time who was talking about, like, I can tell you what's important to you based on your bank account, right? And I thought that's so true. Like, you can really tell a lot about a person on what they invest in, right? So, if you're someone who, healthy eating is important to you as a form of lifestyle self-care, right? Then I'll probably see that reflected in where you spend your money, right? You may be at Whole Foods, you may, be doing grocery delivery, you may, order, substantial supplements, things like that, right? Like there will be evidence of what's important to you, right? And so what I want to talk about today is how to make sure that you are approaching self-care as a lifestyle, not just as an event, not just as something on your to-do list. Because let me just caveat, y'all know there's nothing scripted, right? There's nothing scripted right now. But let me just say this. When you approach self-care like an event, it becomes just another item on your already long to-do list, right? And then what happens is when you don't do it, right? Then you feel like, I'm not taking care of myself, right? And so then you feel guilty for not crossing self-care off of your to-do list, which then is counterproductive to the idea of self-care, right? Hello, Courtney. Welcome to the live stream. It can be this vicious circle of, if self-care is treated like an event, then it becomes another item on the to-do list. And then when that item doesn't get done, then you feel guilty or you feel bad or you feel like, I'm not taking care of myself and I'm supposed to be putting myself first and I'm supposed to be taking care of myself. And then that makes you more stressed out, which is the opposite of what self-care is supposed to do, right? And so that's kind of the dangers of making self-care an event versus a lifestyle, right? Because when self-care is a lifestyle, it affects every moment of every day, right? This is not me saying that you're living in the bathtub with bubbles every day, right? But it's in all your decision making, from what you buy, from where you spend your time, for how you budget your day. Like all of those things become a component of self-care, okay? So the first thing in really committing to a lifestyle of self-care is to view it as a lifestyle and not as an event, right? And the next thing, I've got my blinds open here because like the sun is setting, it's beautiful, and I'm in my new office that's not together yet, but here we are. The next thing when it comes to really committing to a lifestyle of self-care, and I say this, and let me just preface it with this, that when people used to give me this advice or this insight or whatever, it used to frustrate me, okay? Because they would just say it and they really wouldn't explain what it meant, right? And so what I'm going to do, it didn't mean the advice was bad, it's just that I couldn't grasp it at the time. What I'm going to attempt to do is give you this piece of advice when it comes to committing to self-care as the lifestyle step 2, and do my best to really explain it. Okay. So the next piece of the puzzle into committing to self-care as a lifestyle is to decide. Now you're like, well, Evelyn, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't decided. And I would put it to you like this. There's a difference between wanting to do something, wanting to want to do something, and deciding to do something. And let me say that again. There's a difference between wanting to do something, wanting to want to do something, and deciding to do something. And let me break it down. Okay, I remember this was, this is probably over a decade ago now, but I was still in engineering working in corporate America, and I had a good friend at the time. And she wanted to go to grad school, right? She wanted to get her master's. She wanted to continue her education. And I think I might have told this story on my channel before, but I think this illustrates the point really, really well, right? About committing and making a decision to approach self-care as a lifestyle. So she wanted to go to grad school, right? So that's the first one. She wanted to go to grad school. So she was like, I want to go to grad school, right? So she kind of started looking around, poking around, looking at grad schools. Okay, so she was just curious. Sometimes when we want something, we're just curious about it. Like, it would be nice, it would be great, it would be cool, it would be fun, right? It would be interesting, right? That first level is more curiosity. There's no commitment. There's no decision. There's no discipline. There's no investment. There's nothing there, right? So she just wanted to go to grad school. And so I remember she finally was like, okay, I'm going to go to grad school. I need to take the MCAT, I think, or is that what it was? Anyway, one of the tests, the GMAT. I don't have a master's, right? I have 2 engineering degrees, 2 culinary degrees, but I do not have a master's. But she needed to take the test. I think it was the MCAT. And I remember she just would not study for this test, okay? And weeks would go by and she wouldn't study. And every time she got ready to study, somebody would invite her to brunch or invite her to dinner, or, she would find something else to do, or she wanted to, have a marathon Netflix session. And I remember her hairdresser at the time was like, when you decide that you're ready to go to grad school and not that you just want to go to grad school, there's nothing anybody will be able to say or do to keep you from studying for that test to get you into grad school, right? And he was like, and until you reach that moment, don't even beat yourself up about it. That you're just in a want-to-want phase. So the first want was, I want to go to grad school. It would be great. It could further my career, in that corporate arena. The second was, okay, she had picked out some grad schools. Let me get the books. Let me, study or whatever. She wanted to study, right? She really wanted to want to study, but she didn't. She hadn't decided to study, right? And what I find a lot of times before we get to, making a decision, what I find a lot of times is we live in that want to want, right? I really want to make myself a priority. I really want to do what I need to do to move my business forward. I really want to take care of myself in a certain way, to earn a certain level of income, to have a certain type of clientele, to have a certain lifestyle, right? Like we really want it. We really do. But wanting never got anybody anything, right? And so I remember it was another year or so. And then one day she was like, I'm ready. And I remember that girl, you could not get her to go anywhere. She was like, I'm studying for the MCAT. I'm studying. I don't care what's going on. I don't care who's having a brunch. I don't care who's having a party. I don't care who's having this, right? She had reached the point where she was ready. And she studied, she passed, and then she went on and went to grad school, right? But here's the thing, I think in that process of committing to a lifestyle of self-care, deciding, you have to really be honest with yourself about where you are in the spectrum. Do you want a high-end culinary brand? Do you want high-end clients? Do you want to make a certain amount of income? Do you want to make that money so that you can take care of yourself and your family in a certain way so you can be fully expressed? We talked about the other day being financially relaxed. Do you want that? Do you want to want that? Or have you decided that that's what you're going to have? And there is a difference, right? And here's the thing. I don't think there's anything anybody can say or do to move you forward in that spectrum, right? And here's the thing. This is why, you don't let people be tire kickers in your life, and you don't let people be tire kickers in your business, because a lot of people are in the want to want, right? Like, think about this, right? Think about how many times somebody has reached out to you to book you for their services, but they weren't really ready, right? Like, they were curious. They were like, they're thinking about having an event. They're thinking about having a dinner party. They're thinking about having a chef. They're thinking about it. And, they book a call with you, or they email you, or they message you on social media, or they call you, or whatever the case may be. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure. And, okay, let me think about it. And that's because they were curious, right? They kind of, wanted to do that, but they hadn't decided this is what I'm going to do. And think about how frustrated you felt where you were like, okay, well, why did you waste my time if you weren't ready, right? And here's the thing, what I'm going to say to you is don't waste your own time, right? Be honest with yourself about where you are into committing to self-care as a lifestyle. How are you going to care for yourself spiritually, financially, mentally, emotionally, relationally, family, friends, significant other, offspring, okay, in your business, right? Are you tolerating things in certain areas of your life that really aren't self-care, okay? And if you are, have you defined what that level of care looks like? Like one of my favorite things to do when I've worked with people just on the self-care side, which now it's all inclusive. I don't do it separately anymore, but is that they don't even really know what their level of care is. And sometimes the reason why we haven't committed, right, is not because, we haven't made a decision, is that we set the standard of our level of care too low that it makes us not want to commit, right? And here's the thing, this has shown up in my business many times. I remember having business models that had me set up in such a way that I could only make a certain amount of money. For example, so when I was doing personal chefing, I knew, okay, if I book, 10 clients, 5 one week, 5 another week, and alternate, every week's, right? Like they're getting their meals every 2 weeks. I knew at that point I was capped out as far as how many clients I can take unless I added a day of the week or worked longer hours, right? And I remember thinking, like I couldn't really put my all into it. And I was like, Evelyn, why is it that you can't put your all into this? And it was like, because that amount of money a month is not really what you want, right? And until you are honest with yourself about how much you really want to earn, about how much you not just need, but want, right? And this is not about being greedy or anything like that. It's about being honest with yourself about the kind of woman that you are, right? And said, that's the number that I want, and this is how I want to go get it. And saying, okay, then it was easier to make a commitment. But sometimes it's hard for us to commit to things that are just not in alignment with where we are in our life or who we are in our life. Most of the people that watch my channel, right, are not, under 25, okay? You've either already had a career or you're still in your career and you're really just not in the space to like start at the bottom and try to build up a whole new career at this phase in your life. And so it makes it hard to really go in on your business because you're like, is it going to be like this? And it doesn't have to be, right? So, the first step, just a quick recap, and then we'll keep going. The first step into committing to self-care as a lifestyle is to view self-care as a lifestyle, not as an event, not as an item on the to-do list, right? And we talked about why that is, okay? The second thing is you have to decide. So you can't want to make self-care a priority. You can't want to make self-care a priority. You have to decide that self-care is a priority, okay? And then the third thing in committing to self-care as a lifestyle is it has to become a non-negotiable. It's one of my favorite phrases from one of my mentors from afar. She always talks about when you make something a non-negotiable, meaning it's not up for discussion, right? This is what it is. And listen, ladies, we have had that experience in our life. There have been things in our life that we have experienced where we was like, this is what it's going to be, or this is what it's not going to be. Period. End of sentence. End of discussion. Right? We made it a non-negotiable. Right? And that's just what it was going to be. And when you adopt that attitude, when you adopt that approach to self-care, whether that is how many days of the week you're going to work, how you're going to work, how much money you're going to earn, what kind of clients you're going to deal with, right? What kind of work you're going to do, how you feel about your business in any other area of your life. Once you have certain non-negotiables, it makes you make different decisions, right? Because sometimes we can decide and then we kind of waver in our decisions, right? So we make self-care a lifestyle, not an event, not an item on a to-do list, and we decide, okay, I'm going to prioritize self-care, right? And then, if it ruffles some feathers, or, if it makes people feel a certain type of way, or if people kind of have sticker shock at your prices for your services or whatever, then we may get a little squeamish, right? And until you have said it's a non-negotiable, then you will still waver. And I want to give you an example. So this was a long time ago. I can't remember how many years ago this was, but I remember I was doing dinner parties in my business, and I was getting a lot of requests for dinner for twos. Okay. And the thing about dinner for twos is they sound super romantic. They sound super like, oh my gosh, we're going to hire a chef for just the two of us. But what I realized from a business standpoint is they were very impractical, right? That what I would have to charge people to make it worth my time really wasn't worth it, right? Like I really needed dinner parties of like 8 to 16 for me and the business model that I had at the time to make it really worth my while, right? And so I remember, and so this is over a decade ago, but I remember saying to myself, I'm not coming out the house unless I'm going to at least profit $1,000. Like, so that was my new non-negotiable. I was like, unless I'm going to make $1,000, I'm not coming out the house, right? So any client, any opportunity that came to me at that point, I had to do the math really quick and go, am I going to net $1,000? If I was not going to net $1,000, I wasn't doing it, right? And I remember it made me interact with potential clients, differently. Okay, well, they didn't know my minimum, but I did, right? Some people I told no, because here's the thing, I made it a non-negotiable, right? But sometimes when we're in that scarcity energy, we'll be like, but I don't want to pass the clients. But I remember, like, I would regret every time that I would do a dinner party of 2 or 3. All of that work for that little bit amount of money, right? Now, obviously, that dollar amount it might be higher for you, right? I'm not here to tell you what that dollar amount needs to be, but I remember being like, yeah, anything less than $1,000 I'm not doing, right? Because I was like, it was a lot of work, right? And while I loved it and I enjoyed it, I was like, but for them to have this luxury experience, I also need to be compensated well, and I made it a non-negotiable, right? And let me tell you what happened when I made it a non-negotiable. From that point on, all my clients were that amount and above. I don't know what happened metaphysically, supernaturally, whatever, but when I drew a line in the sand that said, in that season, in order for me to enjoy my business and do my best work, every client I book needs to be at least $1,000. And literally from that moment on, that's what I got. And it even got to the point where I started to no longer get inquiries for anything less, right? And then, I was like, oh, that's the power of a made up mind, right? Like that non-negotiable is the power of a made up mind, right? And so I remember then moving that over into, okay, I'm only going to do these types of services. So I remember I was at a point where I was pretty much a chef of all trades, right? So I was doing custom desserts. I was doing personal chefing. I was doing dinner parties. I was doing cooking. I was doing all the things, right? And I remember listening to a business coach at the time. And one of the things she said, she was like, if you have all these different things going, you're going to have a whole bunch of little bitty bushes. And she was like, what you really need to focus on is having a tall tree with deep roots, and then you can go plant another tree, right? And I remember I just felt like I was custom quoting everybody. People wanted to support my business, but every time a new potential client came through, I had to write a new menu, or I had to go, I've never done that before. They want me to do this. Okay, well, how much is that going to cost? Like, and it was stressful. right? I remember it was stressful, not wanting to overbid, the client, not wanting to underbid, wanting to charge my worth, but, don't want to scare them off and don't want to do, and it was like, and then buying new stuff all the time because I didn't have the thing to do that and I didn't have the thing to do this because I was doing a little bit of everything, right? And then I remember I said one day, I said, what do I enjoy doing the most, right? Out of all these things that I could be doing, what do I enjoy doing? Not all the things that I could do, because as chefs, we can do a lot of things, right? What do I enjoy doing the most? That's also going to yield me what I have decided is my minimum, right? And for me, at that time, it was cooking classes. And so I was like, okay. And then I will tell you, it was scary for people to, want to book me for certain things. And I was like, I no longer offer that. Right. And even recently in my business, I've been doing cooking classes for 12 years. And, 5 years ago, I started doing the business consulting and coaching. And for probably about a year and a half, I was like, I'm kind of over doing cooking classes. I've been doing them for 12 years. They have been amazing. And I have done cooking classes in every capacity, right? And I was like, I now in this season of my business have more joy about teaching other people how they can make money in non-traditional ways, right? And so I closed that part of my business. I did my last cooking class ever in November of this year, right? Because I made it non-negotiable, because that was me caring for myself, right? That I was like, I don't want to be all over the place. I don't want to be doing 11 different things, right? This is where I find joy now. So when it comes to committing to self-care as a lifestyle, again, it's a lifestyle, not an event, not a to-do list item on your calendar, right? The second thing is you have to decide, like, okay, this is I'm now making a right turn and going in this direction. If I was normally going left and that's how I was operating, I'm no longer doing that, right? I'm going in this direction. That's the decision. That's the fork in the road that you're at, right? And then you have to make it a non-negotiable. What are your new standards of care? For me, and I think I talked about this in day one, I was really over being confused in my business. Like you talked about stress, right? Because I'm a person, I need to be financially relaxed. That's the thing I need, right? Which means I need margin, I need space, I need more than just the bare minimum. I need more than just what my living expenses are, right? And I remember being like, this is not self-care for me, to be confused in my business, for my income to be going like this. This is not self-care for me. This does not feel like I'm caring for myself well from a business and a financial perspective. And so I said to myself, I said, okay, Evelyn, what would it look like and what would it feel like for you to be well cared for in this area? Right? What would that look like? And I think I talked about this a couple of days ago, and I was like, number one, I don't want to be confused. I don't want to be confused. I don't want to not know how to bring in new clients. I don't want to know. I need to know how to bring in consistent income. I need to know how to market my business. I need to know how to be strategic. I wanted to know all of those things. That was a form of care for me, right? Because the opposite was stress, right? And for a long time, I really wanted that. And then for a long time, I really wanted to want that. And then I got to a point where I decided, I was like, I'm no longer available to not be well cared for in this area of my life. And I was like, so what do you need to do to be well cared for in this area? And I remember I was like, I need to get some help. I need to get some guidance. I need to get some support. I need a community. I need this. And I was like, okay. And what happened is when I made that decision, and then I said, I'm no longer available for this experience to happen ever again, right? I'm unavailable to go back to this. I remember I told one of my business besties, I was like, I will always have a coach. I was like, I am unavailable for unnecessary frustration, overwhelm, confusion, stress, anxiety. I'm unavailable for that, right? It became a non-negotiable. And let me tell you what has been amazing about that. It's like when I made the decision, the provision for that showed up. It's hard to explain, right? But you've probably experienced this in your own life. Sometimes when you've made a decision, you're like, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm telling you what I'm no longer going to do. Or I'm telling you what I'm about to do. And you were just like, this is what I'm doing, right? Because this is what I desire. This is what I need. This is what I deserve. This is what will make me feel well cared for, right? Because the first person that needs to care for us is us, right? And it worked out, right? And so, I will encourage you to really think about, okay, where do I need to increase my level of care? Where am I kind of wanna, but you haven't decided. And where have you not made it a non-negotiable? So listen, I want to take your questions, your comments. Did you have a takeaway, right, from, talking about self-care as a lifestyle, how to fully commit to taking care of yourself, is that you have to view self-care as a lifestyle, not as an event, not as a to-do list item, right? Because it will change the way you make decisions. The second thing is we talked about going from want to deciding. And let me say this. Let me live right here for a second as you type in your, like your key takeaways or your questions. When you think about the word decide means to cut, okay? It means there was this option and there was this option and you cut. I'm not doing that option. I'm doing this option, right? You've made a decision. Decide, right? It means to cut. And I think a lot of times when we have 11 plan Bs, it's because we haven't decided that we are going to make this thing work. Let me tell you, this is why I love the fact that this is unscripted, because things just come to me and I'm like, I need to share this. I remember when I first got into culinary entrepreneurship, okay, and I was fresh out of engineering, I would say the first couple of years, I was in and out of a job. So I would go work a job and be like, I really want to be an entrepreneur, and I would quit the job and then go do entrepreneurship. And it would get stressful and the money wouldn't be consistent. And I was like, okay, I just need to get this financial stress off of me. And I would go get a job. And then I would get in the job and I would be miserable. And I'm like, what do you mean I got to ask for time off? And I would think about, like, I used to make in one event what I'm making in a week here. You know what I'm saying? And I'd be frustrated because I wanted time freedom. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to make my own decisions. I wanted to be doing something that I enjoyed. So then I leave the job and I go back to entrepreneurship. And like this went on for a couple of years, right? And I remember one day saying to myself, you have got to decide what you are going to be. Are you going to be an employee or are you going to be an entrepreneur, right? And here's the thing, and let me say this, there's nothing wrong with either. But I remember saying, you're getting to a point in your life where you need to decide what it's going to be, right? You need to decide, am I going to be an entrepreneur? If so, I need to be all in. Or am I going to be an employee? And if so, I need to be all in and let this be a fun hobby that I occasionally get paid to do on the side, right? And so I was like, but you can't do both. You cannot have a full-fledged career as an employee and a fully thriving business and still balance the other parts of your life, right? And I remember saying to myself, okay, you need to make a decision, Evelyn. I remember this decision like it was yesterday. It's probably one of the most powerful to cut things that I did. And I remember saying, I really want to be an entrepreneur. And then I was like, I really want to be an entrepreneur. Like this is in one sitting. And then I finally said, I'm going to decide to be an entrepreneur. And I said, so what does that mean? This is me talking to myself. I don't know if y'all talk to yourself, but I talk to myself. And I remember saying, then that means you are going to have to make decisions differently. You're going to have to spend your time differently. You're going to have to spend your days differently. You are going to have to invest differently than you have before. You're going to have to go all in, right? And I was like, okay. And I said, so what you're basically deciding to do is whatever it takes. I was like, and then we're taking going back and being an employee off the table, right? And I remember I had to sit with that for a couple of days. I really had to sit with that because, engineering is lucrative. And it was always like, well, I always got this in my back pocket. And what I realized was as long as I had this really cushy backup plan, and I when people used to give this advice, I used to think that they were crazy. Like, you don't need a plan B. And it's like, you don't, because you can pivot in your main plan, but the goal is still the goal. The path may change, but the goal is still the goal. And so I remember having to decide and say, okay, we're going to do the entrepreneur thing. And if we're going to do it, we're going to go all in. And ever since that time, my income has significantly increased year after year after year, right? Like I'm talking about increasing by 30, 50, 60% a year and it's not just about the income, but I can attribute that gain to that decision, right? So before I was kind of sort of doing it, dabbling in this, dabbling in that, a little bit on the side, little this, little that, or whatever, DIY and everything, seeing what other chefs are doing, watching free YouTube videos, watching free webinars, reading a couple of articles here and there, looking what people were doing on Instagram or whatever. And it only got me to a certain point. And I was like, because at that point you're being an amateur. Nothing wrong with that. You're being a hobbyist, right? I was like, but if this is going to be your life vocationally, if this is going to be your career, if this is going to be your business, your company, then you need to treat it as such and you need to function as such. And that change, that decision, that cut of I will not be an employee again because I am deciding in this moment that I am an entrepreneur and this is going to be the way I make my living. That was probably one of the most pivotal moments. And so, I think back to all these moments where I finally made a decision, right? I remember, so there was a decision about I'm not gonna make less than $1,000. There was a decision about okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And then probably very quickly after the decision to be an entrepreneur, I remember saying, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do it broke. I'm not going to do it broke. I'm not going to do it frustrated. I'm not going to do it stressed out. I'm not going to do it anxious. I think it was kind of like all one big decision. I just remember a couple months later saying, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be enjoyable, right? What's the point of leaving a job that I didn't find enjoyable to have a business that I didn't enjoy? Maybe for different reasons, but I was like, I'm not doing that. And so I decided and made it a non-negotiable, right? That my lifestyle was going to be that of an entrepreneur, right? And all the good and, the not so great that comes with that over all of the good or sometimes the not so good that comes with being an employee. That's why I say neither one is wrong. And so I want to challenge you to that same thought process. Where are you when it comes to this is going to be what I do for the rest of my life? This is where I am going. This is who I'm going to be. I've decided this is not just a cute thing that maybe one day when life is, perfect and utopia, I'm going to do, right? And that was me caring for myself. And that's why I say self-care is more than bubble baths and candles. Those things are important, but this was me caring for myself and saying, well, what do I need and what do I want, right? And now it's interesting. I can tell when I'm in the want phase in something, and I can tell when I'm in the want to want something. And I'll tell myself sometimes, okay, you know what? You're not there yet. Don't even force it, right? When you get to the point where you have decided and you've made it a non-negotiable, think about this, right? Maybe some of you have been on a health journey, right? And, you hear this all the time with people who, either stop smoking or stop drinking or lose weight or anything to improve their health, right? It's like the thing that clicked was when they made a decision, right? And it was a non-negotiable. They were like, I didn't feel like myself anymore, or I didn't like the way I felt when I did X, Y, Z, or I didn't like the way I looked, or I didn't like whatever. And it was something that clicked in them. And they were like, that's it. It was the decision. that decision affected all of those actions. And here's some bonus tips, because once you make that decision, it's basically making a promise to yourself, right? I have decided that this is what I'm going to do. So you've told yourself, this is what we're going to do. All discipline is, and people think discipline is a bad word, all discipline is keeping a promise that you made to yourself, right? But if you haven't made that promise to yourself, it's hard to be disciplined, right? So a lot of times people are beating themselves up about not being committed and not being disciplined. It's like, because they haven't decided. They wanted to. They haven't decided, right? And here's the thing, even when I interview potential clients, if people are kind of like on the fence, it's a no. Because it's not going to be the best use of their time, and their investment is not going to be the best use of my time, energy, and intellect, right? Because they're still on the fence, right? Let me tell you, I have a friend, and she's like doing the online dating thing right now. And one of the things we talked about is that sometimes she'll see people's profile, and, when it says like what they're looking for, and sometimes, the guy's profile will say, not sure yet, or don't know yet. And she was like, I automatically swipe, right? Because you're already telling me you don't know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, how do you going to get it when it's in front of you if you don't know what you want, right? They haven't made a decision about what they want. So they basically want to try people on for size and figure out in the process. Absolutely not, right? It's the same thing in your life. A lot of times we waste a lot of time because we just haven't made a decision, right? And I talked about the other day that indecision is the mother of anxiety. It is like one of the root causes of anxiety, right? Like, should I not? Am I going to do this? And then you beat yourself up. I think about, because I used to do like a lot of healthy cooking classes and things like that, and people were wanting to really like transform into a healthy lifestyle. I remember I was doing a cooking class at a church, it was like a 6-week like healthy eating lecture series, right? And I had them do this simple activity. First weekend, right, was here's your homework for the next week. All I want you to do is for the next week, I just want you to track your meals. And that's it. I was like, I just want you to write it down. Don't try to don't just track your meals. And so when they came back to the class, I handed them all containers of colored pencils. And I said, what I want you to do is I want you to go through what you've eaten this week, and anything that you have more than a cup of, more than a cup measurement of whatever color, I want you to circle. So if you've had more than a cup of greens, green vegetable, circle that. Red, orange, yellow, blue, purple, whatever, right? I want you to circle that. And then I was like, if it was beige or brown, I don't want you to circle it. Just leave it bare, right? And so I remember I had people going through the activity because it's very eye-opening, because a lot of times people think they eat healthier than they actually do, but I digress. That's a conversation for another day. And I remember there was a lady in the class who was working through it, and when she got done, there was like no color on her page, right? And I remember her saying, I'm quitting. And I remember being like, what do you mean? I was like, it's just, we're just about to start week 2. That was just week 1. Like, this was just an eye opener. She was like, I'm not ready. And I thought she was joking. She got up, she left, and she never came back, right? Because she knew she wasn't ready. She was in the, I want to eat healthy. Maybe I want, but she hadn't decided, right? Other people had similar results that day, and they were like, wow. That kind of burns to see that, right? But okay, let's dig in. Let's do the work. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, right? And, I don't condemn her for that. She was being honest about where she was in her healthy food journey, right? And so, I say this to you, wherever you are, when it comes to self-care, when it comes to your business, when it comes to how you want to be financially supported, how you want to work, what kind of clients you work with. Listen, I don't work with nightmare clients. I don't work with people who complain all the time. I don't work with people who have excuses all the time. I work with women who are excited. I work with women who have a very abundant mindset that think anything is possible. I work with women who are all about self-investment. I work with women who are all about community, and working well with others. I work with women who are like, I don't need to learn the hard way. I don't want the badge of honor for doing it the hard way, the long way by myself. I work with women who appreciate having their life supported. I work with women who appreciate luxury, right? Like they appreciate self-care as a lifestyle. Those are the kind of women that I work with. And I focus on that, right? And so a lot of times, if people come across my path and they're not that, I already know that they're not a good fit. That doesn't mean they're not a good person. They're just not a good fit, because that's my level of care. It's my business. I want to work with people that I enjoy and that enjoy me, right? And it's this, you can have the same thing. Like that's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneurship, is you get to say, this is the kind of clientele that I want to work right with, which is why I interview all my clients, right? So anytime there's any kind of offering from me where you're going to be working up close and personal with me, we're going to have a phone call, right? Because you may not be a good fit and I may not be a good fit for you, right? Or, but it's to see, right? And there are some people that for other things were not a good fit, not because of personality, but like I couldn't help them. I've had people come to me, were referred to me and they were like, oh, okay, I heard you do Cayenne culinary brands. I heard you do this, whatever. I want to start a food truck. I've never done a food truck, so I can't teach you how to do a food truck, right? I don't teach theory. I teach practical application. People go, I want to start a restaurant. I heard, can you help me? Not really. I probably can give you some general business advice, but it wouldn't be the best use of their resources, right? So I say all that to say that committing to self-care as a lifestyle comes in those 3 steps. Is 1, viewing self-care as a lifestyle, not an event, not a day on the calendar, not a self-care Saturday, not a self-care Sunday, not a, item on your to-do list, right? The second thing is deciding, okay, that you are going to commit to a self-care approach to life, right? Like decide means to cut. So you're not going to be wavering back and forth, okay? The third thing is to make it a non-negotiable, right? Come hell or high water, this is what's happening, right? And then kind of the bonus thing that we put in there was that, I just forgot. It's in the replay. Okay. Anyway, okay. I've talked way longer than I wanted to. So I want to take your questions, your key takeaways. Let me know in the comments. Are you enjoying this series, or is this your first viewing? But let me know. I know it's very different for my channel and the content that you're probably used to. But as you can see, I'm very passionate about it. Like anything else, I have a system for self-care. I actually call it's like a 10-point self-care strategy that I use with my clients. And they don't even know that I'm using it on them sometimes, but I think I'm going to give them the actual formula, right? But let me know in the comments how you're enjoying this. Do you have questions? What's something that made you go, oh, okay, or what was a key takeaway for you? And while you type that, hold please. All right. So let's see here. And like always, if you are watching the replay, you can always leave your comments or questions below. Also want to let you know, if you're enjoying this is just like a amuse-bouche of what happens inside of the Chef's Table experience. And I am opening up the group program beginning in January of 2020. But all applications and interviews have to be completed by December the 17th. So I want to make sure that you get that in. The link is in the description below. But you can type in your questions and your comments. But I know a couple of you have already submitted your applications, but you still need to follow through and schedule your call, right? And on that call, basically, I'm going to ask you more questions about your business outside of the application, get to know more about you and your goals, and then we're going to talk about what is the best strategy for you moving forward. It may not be the Chef's Table, right? So some people are at a point where the Chef's Table is not a good fit for them, and I'm not about trying to force something on someone that's not a good fit, right? Like there's too much available in the world for me to try to force that on someone. So the way to apply is to click the link that's in the description box below. And then also, once you complete the questionnaire, it's going to prompt you to schedule your call. And once you do that, pick a time that's best for you. But it's only me. So, even if you're out of town or on vacation or wherever you're at, go ahead and pick a day that works for you and schedule your call, because I don't want to leave you out when we start in January. So in the meantime, what questions do you have about committing to self-care? What questions do you have about building a high-end culinary brand? Let me know what you have or any takeaways from this, or just if you're enjoying the series at all. So let me know. I see you here, right? I can't see who is here, but I know that you're here. So, or let me know where you're watching from. I would love to know that as well. So I'll give it another minute or so to see if we have any comments, any feedback. Also, let me know, is there anything in this self-care series that you would like me to discuss, right? Like I have some things, kind of in my back pocket, but if there's some things that you're like, Evelyn, I would really love to know your thoughts on this or have a dialogue about that, let me know in the comments, because I definitely would love to incorporate those if I can. So, y'all, I can't believe I've been talking for almost an hour. I get so passionate and so excited about this subject because this is the undercurrent for building the high-end culinary brand. This is the undercurrent for helping you make more money. This is the undercurrent for helping you build your business or grow your business and expand your business. This is the undercurrent, is that I want you to have the life that you want. And the business is just a means to get you there, right? But here's the thing, that business will be no fun if you don't know what you're building towards, or if you think that what you want is unattainable, right? Or if the journey is miserable, right? So, listen, if there are no questions, comments, concerns, then I am going to sign off. But like I said, watch this replay. I'm putting all of these videos in a playlist. So if you miss any day, you can come back and watch. And I may leave this playlist up after the 17 days, or I may not. It just depends. I don't really know. I haven't made a decision on that yet. So make sure. Bliss Love says, hi, I just joined, so I'm not sure what was said. I will go back and watch the replay. Oh, no worries, Bliss. And so here's the thing. If you are subscribed to the channel, then make sure you turn your notifications on, because it will let you know when I'm going live so that you can tune in, because the times have been a little bit different just because of, building a business around my life. But I'm so glad that you're here. So I hope that you enjoy the replay, and you can always leave your questions or your takeaways in the comments of the replay. So you can definitely do that. And then is it Inger? Inger Allen says, thank you. It is my pleasure. Like I get so fired up about this topic because this is the essence of life, of living. What kind of life do you want? And then are you willing to do what you need to do to have that life, right? And that's the kind of people I like to work with, the people who know that, you write your own story, right? You absolutely write your own story. And, sometimes we need support with that, right? You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. It is my pleasure. I'm so glad that you have tuned in. So just a quick little recap when we're talking about committing to self-care as a lifestyle. Number one, view self-care as a lifestyle, not as an event, right? Goodbye to self-care Saturdays, self-care Sundays, or self-care as an item on the to-do list. Two, we went really deep about the wants versus the want-to-wants versus deciding. Don't have to catch that in the replay. Third thing is we went really deep about making it a non-negotiable. And the fourth thing we talked about, that all discipline is keeping a promise that you made to yourself, right? I wish that was an Evelyn original. I got that from somebody years ago. I wish I could remember who I got it from so that I could give them credit. But when I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, discipline is just keeping a promise that you made to yourself. But what I realized as I have matured is that if you never made the promise to yourself, it's really hard to keep it, right? If you wanted to do it, then there was no commitment there. But when you commit, when you decide, when you cut, that power of a made up mind, the discipline comes naturally, right? Which is interesting, because we make it seem like discipline is this willpower thing, right? But when you go, I made this promise to myself. And listen, I'm gonna go off on a little bit of tangent. And here's the thing: it can be a little foreign to us if you've had the life experience where people have made promises to you and they didn't keep them. And so it may be foreign to you to know what it looks like to keep a promise to yourself despite what happens, if you never saw that model for you consistently, right? I don't know why I felt the need to say that. I think somebody either watching live or somebody that's going to watch the replay needs to hear that if you've experienced in your life where people kept breaking promises, you kept breaking promises to you, kept breaking promises to you, then you will think that promises are never kept, and you won't keep it to yourself. And you're wondering why you can't be disciplined in your business, and you can't be disciplined with your marketing, and you can't be disciplined with this, right? And it's because you haven't seen somebody make decisions in a way that honors the promises that they made to you. And so you're having difficulty doing that to yourself. And this is your opportunity to say, I'm going to show myself what it's like, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what happens when a promise is kept to me. I don't know who that was for, but that was for somebody. Maybe it was for me. I don't know. Okay. But thank you all so much for being here. I really wanted to keep these under 30 minutes because, listen, we all have lives to lead, and I want to make sure that if you want to watch the replay, you enjoy it. But like I said, applications to the Chef's Table Experience Group Program are currently open. Please do not wait till the last minute, because I will not be responding to applications over the holiday. Do not wait till January and be like, Evelyn, I'm trying to get in, because you won't get a response. We will be off to the races, and you will have to wait a year. If that's even happening, life changes a lot of times. Let me tell you. Okay, last thing, I promise. Bliss says, I love that quote about discipline because it was me. Wow. Yeah. Listen. Courtney says, I have definitely been enjoying these series. A made-up mind is definitely key. I purchased the high-end culinary brand today. I can't wait to watch it tonight. You have been dropping some key gems. Listen, you are going to, I think, I could be biased, I think you're going to love the high-end culinary brand masterclass, because it's going to show you the framework of what it takes to build a high-end culinary brand. So in the masterclass, you're going to get the framework, you're going to get the philosophy, right? You're going to get the roadmap. What we do inside the Chef's Table is we work through all the things that you will learn in the high-end culinary brand masterclass, right? Because it's like, once you get through it tonight, you will see that there's no way for me to teach all of that in a 90-minute masterclass. So it is like the super detailed roadmap of it. But the Chef's Table is, we take one of those per month, and we work all the way through it, and you actually implement it into your business. So I'm so excited for you to go through it. And listen, once you go through it, message me on Instagram and let me know what you thought about it. I would love to know that. But I was going to say this about, people who wait. Listen, waiting is risky, right? Waiting is risky. There were so many people who were like, you know what, at the end of 2019, I'm just going to wait and do it in 2020. And then the next 2 years have been what crazy, right? And it's interesting because, like all of my one-on-one spots for 2022 are completely filled up, right? And, people were like, okay, I'm gonna do it next year. I was like, who said I was offering one-on-one slots in 2023? Like I never said that. You know what I'm saying? So like it's like limited edition. You're going. Life changes, things change. Like my business changes. I had people who all these years like, oh, I'm gonna book you for a cooking class, and then it's like I've retired from cooking classes, and booking Evelyn for a cooking class is never gonna happen again, right? And so they're like, oh, and I'm like, you had 12 years. So for those of you who are like, I really want to do the chef's table. Move from want to want to want. Decide. And when you decide, you'll fill out that application, you'll schedule your call, and you will get yourself inside the chef's table if it's a good fit for you. So I am so thankful for you spending some time with me this evening. Make sure you watch the replay. Like I said, I'm adding all of these to a playlist. The playlist is on my channel. It's called the Chef Care series, self-care for women chefpreneurs. So if you missed a day, you can go back and you can watch that. And hopefully I'll talk to some of you this week if you put it in your application. If not, I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.